What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Two-Wheeled Rider YouTube channel. My name is Mario Orsini, and I always said if Harley Davidson ever built a bike I was interested in, I would buy one. And earlier this week, they finally announced their adventure bike, and I've already got my t-shirt. All right, so in all seriousness, earlier this week or last week, by the time you're watching this, we finally got to see a prototype of Harley's new adventure bike, which I believe they're still calling the Pan America or Pan American. And I posted a picture of it up on my Instagram and on my Facebook, and holy crap, did it get a lot of comments on both sides. People that liked it, people that didn't like it. There are a couple people in the middle that were going to reserve judgment. Someone that had an opposing view to mine was my buddy Craig Ripley over at Living Off The Slab. So after we went back and forth for a while, he said, hey, why don't we each just make our own video, sharing our thoughts, and see what people think. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to link Craig's video up here. I have not seen it as of recording this. I don't even know if he's finished it, but we are going to both publish them on the same day and same time, so we can see what each other has to say, and you can see what we have to think as well. So let's start with the why. Why is Harley Davidson entering the adventure bike market? Well, I think that's kind of simple. They're looking to get a slice of that pie. They're one of the biggest motorcycle manufacturers in the world, and the adventure segment has definitely been blowing up over the last few years. They want to get a slice of that pie. They've also had some slipping motorcycle sales. Back in 2013, they were up at about 460 some thousand units sold. This past year, they were down to about 230,000 units sold, dropping them down to fifth. KTM is now up into the fourth place slide at about 260,000 units sold. And Kawasaki's in third, couldn't find numbers on them. And then you got Yamaha with 5.4 million units sold and Honda with around 20 million units sold. So Harley's just looking to expand their market. What better way than to get in the ADV market? Just another real quick thing. I was talking about units sold, and I'm just talking about the number of bikes sold. I'm not talking about the profitability of the company. Even though KTM outsold Harley Davidson, Harley Davidson still brought in 3 times the revenue of what KTM did. And the reason for that is they sell expensive motorcycles, where KTM, Kawasaki, Honda, and Yamaha all sell a lot of small displacement street bikes, which obviously aren't very expensive, and a lot of off-road dirt bikes and ATVs and those sorts of things, which are much less expensive and have a much lower profit margin than what Harley has. Harley is still a very highly profitable company, much more so than some of the other ones we read off, with the exception of obviously Yamaha and Honda. So in my opinion, when it comes to coming out with a new motorcycle that's going to sell, it needs to meet at least one of 4 criteria, and the more it meets, the better. The first one is you're coming out with something new. Well, they're not coming out with anything new. BMW, KTM, Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, arguably Kawasaki, Ducati, Triumph have already entered the ADV game, and many of them have been in it for a very long time. BMW came out with the first, what we'll call adventure motorcycle, back in 1980. While Honda didn't bring the Africa Twin to the United States until recently, it had been available in other markets as early as, I believe, 1988. Triumph has been building the Tiger since, I believe, 1993, at least as the 900. KTM didn't come out with their 950 Adventure until 2003, which is still, 17 years before Harley's coming out with theirs, but they did have a prototype out as early as 1992. Ducati's probably the newest on the block when it comes to adventure bikes. They came out with theirs just a few years ago, but it's based off of the Multistrada, which has been out for quite some time. Suzuki's been building the V-Strom for a very long time, and Yamaha's been in the game with the Tenere for at least a while now. All right, so we don't have any actual performance numbers on the bike, but we do have a few of the specs. We understand it's supposed to be a 1250 cc. Doesn't that sound weird with Harley saying cc? It's always been cubic inch before. Dual overhead cam, 60-degree V-twin that is liquid cooled. Brand new motor out of the gate for this bike. Later on, they're supposed to make some smaller versions of the bike, smaller displacement engines, but that's what they're starting out with. So can they meet the performance of the titans in the group, which in my opinion, if we're going off horsepower and performance, it's the BMW, the KTM 1290 series, and the Ducati 1260 series. Nothing against the Africa Twin and the Tenere, they just don't make quite the horsepower. They don't have quite the displacement of the larger bikes, but that's fine. Nothing against them. So are they going to meet the performance of those bikes? Well, at least what I've read, they've kind of admitted we're going to get close to there, but we're not trying to top anything. So they're not going to beat those bikes in performance, or at least they're not shooting for it. So there's something else they could do to get part of that market share. Let's talk about that. So not everyone is going to build a bike that hits the performance of the BMW GS Series, KTM, or the Multistradas. Which is fine. That's why Yamaha sells a lot of the Teneres and Honda sells a lot of the Africa Twins. They're a little bit lighter, a little bit less horsepower, but also cost a lot less money. So is Harley going to come out with a bike that's down in their price range that can outperform them? At least from what I've read, and keep in mind this is rumors, we're still dealing with a prototype. It's probably going to come out in the $24,000 to $25,000 range, which is going to put it up there with the BMW and the Ducati, and about $6,000 more than the KTM, and about $10,000 more or $9,000 than the Yamaha and the Honda. So the answer to that is no, it's not going to beat it on price either. So what's something else that could beat it on? Now, I do agree with my friend Craig Ripley in that adventure bikes are not pretty bikes to begin with. My Super Adventure sitting over here, not going to win any beauty awards. Same thing with the BMW and the Triumph and the other bikes out there. They're functional bikes. They're not pretty bikes. So Harley could set themselves apart with coming out with a beautiful adventure bike. In my opinion, they missed that mark too. That's probably one of the ugliest bikes I've ever seen. So let's talk about a few more of my thoughts on this bike before we wrap this video up. So one of the arguments I've heard in favor of the bike is, hey, at least Harley's trying something new. And I agree with that. But I've got a little bit of concern there. You see, all the other manufacturers I've named off for the most part, so we're talking about the 4 Japanese manufacturers, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha, also throw KTM in there. They all have huge off-road racing programs. So they do tons of R&D. That's what their racers and engineers are for. They're constantly out testing their machines under the most extreme conditions. Now, admittedly, some of the other manufacturers don't have quite the R&D when it comes to racing. BMW, for example, no longer really races much off-road, if any, but they do have the whole Dakar heritage when it comes to that. They won a lot of Dakar off-road events, so they know what it takes to build an adventure motorcycle. When it comes to Triumph, again, not big into the off-road, but they have been building that Tiger for over 20 years now, so that thing is a proven, is it 20 years? Yeah, well over 20 years now. So that's a proven motorcycle. Now, when it comes to Ducati, it's based off of one of their street bikes, so while maybe not proven off-road, it is on a proven platform. It's not like Harley where they're building something new from the ground up to go test in the adventure market. It's based on a pre-existing sport touring bike they already have, and those things have done pretty well. So in my opinion, I don't know how many people are going to want to jump from an existing adventure bike that's already been tested and proven to an unproven entity in the Pan American, whatever they're going to call this thing. And I also don't see where there's going to be too many existing Harley Davidson owners that are going to want one of these bikes. Now, I could be totally off base. I don't know. But, their current market has always been cruisers and full dressers. Big V-twin, mostly air-cooled. I know they've gone to liquid-cooled heads here recently. But that's been their target market. And I don't know if those riders are going to want to get on a bike with a really high seat height, with a ton of ground clearance. I don't know. Maybe they will. So why would Harley want to try to get into the ADV market if it's already saturated? Well, they're really looking to move more units, and ultimately they're looking to keep their stockholders happy because they are a publicly traded company. They're looking at results quarter to quarter, year to year. How can they increase revenue? How can they increase profit? And a lot of the other manufacturers don't really have to deal with that. They're just looking to turn a profit. They're not looking to impress their shareholders and drive up their stock price. Ducati's owned by Volkswagen, so they're a part of a firm. So as long as they're profitable and they've got reach back to Volkswagen for additional funds for R&D, they're not going to have any issues. KTM is a privately held company. BMW is a part of the larger BMW group. Honda is a part of the larger Honda automotive group. Kawasaki's part of a larger group. Most of these other manufacturers aren't publicly traded, and if they are part of a publicly traded company, they're a smaller part of it, so they don't have a constant eye on them for how are you going to turn more profits, more revenue, which is why you're seeing Harley, get into the ADV market. You're seeing them get into the electric bike market. I saw earlier this week, they're looking to build electric bicycles. They're looking to diversify across the board. I just don't know if getting into ADV bikes is the way that's really going to grow their company. I read off some numbers earlier. Ducati, I mean, they're a household name. They only moved 53,000 units last year, and it was one of their biggest years. So obviously, they don't have to sell many of their adventure bike or their sport tour bikes to make up big numbers in comparison to the total number of bikes they sell. If Harley were to sell just as many Enduro Pros as what Ducati did, it's not going to raise the stock price a single penny, so I don't really think it's going to make that big a difference in the long run. So anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on the new Harley Davidson adventure bike, but I could be totally wrong. This bike could come out and it could be the best performing adventure bike we've ever seen with a really competitive price and a wait list 6 months long, but I doubt it. If I were Harley Davidson, I would continue to do what you do well, which is make great cruisers, full dressers, chrome accessories, and these really nice t-shirts. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider hitting that subscribe button, because if you like motorcycles, this is the place to be. Down in the comment section below, share your thoughts with me. I'm sure you all will, whether you agree with me, maybe you sort of agree with me, or you just think I'm an idiot, whatever. Let me know down in the comment section below. Again, be sure to go over to Craig's channel and check out his opposing view video. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.